This is Coda Radio, episode 511 for March 27th, 2023. Hey friend, welcome in to Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show, taking a pragmatic look at the art and the business of software development and the whole dang world of technology. My name is Chris, and joining me every single week in his 511 tactical pants for our 511th episode, it's our host, Mr. Dominic. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Chris, and I just have to start the show and say that Wes is such a gentleman. He got me right into the Matrix.
Already?
Wow.
So that is some fast turnaround. You submit a problem during the intro, and it's solved before the intro's over of the show.
I feel like Wes knows that passwords, dates, times, and places are just not my area, and kind of has a little like thing on his desktop. Stuff Mike forgets here.
Yeah. You should probably just automate it at this point, right? Just get a little script.
Get Alice to be like, "Here, idiot, here's your password."
You know, there is something about just really being honest with yourself with what you're not good at, and then asking yourself, can I come up with systems? Like, I have realized I thought I was good at taking notes, and I have slacked off over the last couple of years, and my memory just doesn't hold up. Small little details. I really noticed it when I started working on the cars. And then I needed to know, like, you know, what specific engine each car has and all of that. And I can't seem to recall it. I can hold it for a day or two and then it's gone. And so I've gotten deep into Joplin recently. I don't know if you've ever used it, but it's kind of like an Evernote alternative.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I'm using Joplin to kind of try to track all these types of little things that you always have to look up over and over again. I'm not saying you should use that for passwords. It's a different thing, but it's a funny thing. Like, I've had to admit, there's just some stuff. Names. I'm horrible with names too, as you might have noticed, Larry.
Okay, Jim.
All right. Well, we got a couple of good emails this week. I really appreciate people took notice that I was kvetching last week about a lack of emails, and people really stepped up. So thank you. Appreciate that, and please do keep them coming. Coder.show/contact. Starfractical wrote in on the topic of the slow downfall of Apple and the Mac, which we touched on when we played a clip last week. And they write, as part of my job, I require the use of a local virtual machine for hardware testing. It's difficult to plug a USB device into the cloud, after all. My go-to has been Windows, but recently I started using Microsoft Office as part of changing jobs, and it's been the most painful experience on Windows. Colleagues would share their screen, and I'd see the glory of using Office apps on the Mac. They appear to be somewhat recently rewritten, I'm adding somewhat. No cruft applications. They just let you get work done. I was almost about to make the switch to the Mac when we needed to use a Linux VM to do some local development. And my colleagues that were using the Mac couldn't do it. Why, you ask? Well, our VPN software is not available in a compatible architecture that'll run in a Linux VM on a Mac host. This small crack, I feel, will continue to grow for tech people on the Mac. Everyone talks about the cloud, but they kind of seem to forget there are sectors of IT that require some physical connection, and the mismatch of hardware and architecture is a real thing. Love the show. Congrats on blasting past 500. Yeah, the architecture mismatch problem is real.
It is. Yeah. You know, I'd like to say that I think they're going to backpedal, but I don't think they are. I think we're just...
No.
Yeah, this is where we live now.
I would love to see the ability to use Rosetta to maybe run a VM or a container. Like, what if Rosetta could run x86 containers as well as it runs x86 applications on the Mac?
Well, you know, that might not be out of the question, right?
Yeah. You know, and if it was some kind of API that Docker Desktop could just integrate into, right? That would be fantastic. Is the Rosetta translation API. And, somehow the Docker runtime could just tap into that. The VM situation on the Mac has both gotten better in some regards, like definitely better in terms of OS integration, Apple specifically developing hypervisor compatible drivers. Those types of developments, I think, have been extremely positive for VMs on the Mac. But where Apple always giveth, Apple always taketh away. And they taketh away with this architecture change. For the good that it brings, it also has that downside. And I also agree that there's always inevitably these little cracks in using the Mac in IT. When you're really getting down into the dirty, it generally just doesn't deliver. And when you're a few layers up, it tends to be fine. So it just kind of depends where you're at in the stack. And I really look at it as different tools, right? And I think that's how it goes. So Anonymous, who is a dark matter developer in Phoenix, wrote in, and I thought this was really interesting. Really appreciated them being willing to share this with us. Hi, Chris and Mike. I've been listening since episode 1, and I'm currently listening to episode 507 with the conversation about Ford's upcoming auto repossession. I'm a dark matter web developer for a company that provides GPS devices and a web app to subprime auto lenders. Do I know the harm that is caused by the products that I help build? Yes. The problem is I have is that the company treats me well. I get paid well. Basically, it's really comfortable here. There's also the thought that if I don't do the work, they'll just find someone else who will. And the mindset instilled in some of my coworkers is that we're actually helping the impoverished people by allowing them to get a car when they otherwise wouldn't be able to. But at a 30% repo rate, that just isn't true. On a similar note, do you use a credit card? Do you keep it paid off at the end of every month as to not carry a balance? Do you take the rewards that are offered by that card? The rewards are paid by other people's interests and fees. Capitalism will always find a way to keep the rich richer, the poor poorer, and the middle happy enough to stay quiet about what the rich are doing to the poor. Keep up the great show. So this is complex, right? Because they're kind of working on the earlier version of what Ford has patented, this auto repossession system, right? They're working on GPS tracking that the lender can use to repo these, so they can just send a repo man out with a tow truck to go pick it up, and they know right where the car's at. And they're building the web app to help, bridge the loan people and the repo people and track all of that. That's a tricky thing. I'm trying to put myself in that position.
It's a tough thing. I mean, I would say this is not like a new dilemma, right? Anybody doing any kind of like military work or government work has the same problems. These can be used for good things. These can be used for bad things. And in a lot of cases, it's more incompetence is really the thing you got to be scared of. Just like stupid things. Like, I know it sounds silly, but I will bet my hat that one day a Ford repo car is going to repo itself on accident, in error.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's a funny story 6 months later at the pub, but it's gonna be super irritating and possibly dangerous, right? If you also happen to simultaneously have a medical emergency or something like that.
No kidding.
Yeah, but to our Anon dude here in Arizona, I would not no one's saying quit your job, right? I think that's silly. I mean, we can make this less physical. Like, the folks who were working on Instagram didn't intend to, mess with teenage girls' self-esteem and head, as they so clearly have. But, happens, and there are unintended consequences to everything.
Yeah. And we may never see Ford actually ship the self repo.
It is Ford, so they could just mess it up. Like, there's that.
It does, but when we get Anonymous's letter here about how, in current today out in the market, we have these GPS devices that are being controlled by lenders and repo people that get access to a dashboard and all of that. It makes me think, if the technology exists, some car vendor will do it. It's just, it seems inevitable in our society that if we have the capability technologically, if we have self-driving, we have the ability to connect the banks and the repo people and the car maker, we're already doing it. It just is another layer that would sit on top of this. So it doesn't seem like that Ford patent is actually that implausible anymore. It's just the self-driving part they got to work out. Hopefully they never figure that out. Colin has an example of maybe how some companies could set up some open source funding on their own. He writes, "Hey guys, at my work, Rocket Mortgage, they just announced that they're going to donate $1,000 a month to open source projects. It's kind of cool too, because they're going to leave it up to the dev team to decide which projects the donations go to each month. I don't agree with everything my company does, but I thought this was pretty awesome. Hopefully it's something that catches on. Thanks for everything. Love the show." That's really great to see.
That is super cool.
That is. I definitely tried to do something like this for a bit at Linux Academy, and that's where I get on my soapbox and my high horse at the same time when I talk about how hard some damn devs are to pay. I mean, it is a real problem, Colin. So I'd be curious to know a little bit of follow-up down the road how that goes, because what you're going to get in a lot of cases is you're either going to get, can you do PayPal, or you're going to get, I don't do PayPal. So some companies just refuse to use PayPal because, it's not businessy. And then you're going to get, can you do a wire transfer? There's going to be all these different ways and methods. Each individual developer is going to want to get paid. And so that is tricky because you got to get the accounting folks on board with what this initiative is and why we're doing it and why it's worth them changing their standard practices and requiring somebody on their team to learn something new and a new process for this initiative. You got to make it worth, you got to make them realize why it's worth their time. That was a big challenge I ran into, is I had leadership on board. I was on board. We all thought it was a great idea. And then when it came down to it, and the developers, it became this back and forth thing over email that eventually we had to loop in accounting, and accounting just didn't want to play around. They just didn't have time for it. You're a vendor. You know what? Send us a PO and we'll send you a check or something. Yeah. So good luck, Colin. I think it's a great initiative, and I'd love to know how it goes.
I have a quick question on that. So it is the horse standing on the soapbox and you're riding the horse?
Yeah, totes. Yeah, kind of like a Civil War hero, maybe. I got a great jacket on, crazy hair going on but with a great hat too.
I'm assuming your facial hair situation's just glorious.
Yeah, dude. And there's a bit of a breeze, so it's kind of just like blowing in the wind. So is the horse tail. Yeah, it's pretty nice.
I have to go to one of those generative AIs and be like, Chris Fisher as Civil War Confederate cavalry general. Go.
Could you imagine if somebody so first you run the show through Whisper, and then you throw that into like Stable Diffusion and have Stable Diffusion auto-generate images for each chapter. And then using Cloud Chapters, we could just have that Stable Diffusion image displayed automatically. It's going to be the future, Mike.
And then we just wait for the tweets to roll in. I can't believe you two are Confederates. Goddamn.
Linode.com/coder. Go there to get $100 in 60-day credit on a new account, and it's a great way to support the show while you're checking out a cloud that was built for developers. You should try it for your next project. It's what we use for everything that we build or have built for like the last 3+ years now. It has really been kind of a secret sauce because we're a small whippersnapper of a business, but we have access to the same infrastructure the big dogs do. And Linode has pricing that'll scale with you. They have a concept of nanodes that are like these mission purpose MVP systems, perfect for like a portfolio, a blog, a status page, something that's checking on a system, maybe a small instance for yourself for notes, source code management, etc. Right? They got these nanodes. They're ridiculously priced. They're just so cheap. It's great. And as you scale up, they handle it gracefully. I started with a really small system and built it up as demand needed, and I was blown away. With backups all along the way, taking snapshots, really having a good grasp on the state of my system and the state of my application. Linode is fast, reliable cloud hosting. And Linode is always rolling out upgrades. I mean, some of my systems just keep getting better, even though I haven't switched rigs. They just have replaced parts and made them faster, like NVMe storage, faster RAM, faster processors. They are their own ISP, and they're turning it up past 11 because they've already got 11 data centers this year. And they're rolling out more than a dozen new Linode data centers all around the world. Great performance, great interface, great reliability, and fantastic support. Those are just some of the options I choose Linode. I also really appreciate the simplicity for some of the systems I need. I don't need a lot of complexities of the hyperscalers with their crazy esoteric language that tries to lock me in. I want to get in, get access to the system when I need it, and deploy applications fast. And Linode makes it affordable, simple, and accessible to deploy and manage your projects or your customers' projects. And Linode does it for a better price and better performance than anyone else. Go try it out. Go get that $100 and kick the tires for yourself and see if it's true. I think you're going to be really impressed. We love Linode, and I think you will too. Try it out at linode.com/coder. You get the $100, you can support the show, and you get to try out Linode. That's a win. You can just stack some W's right there. Linode.com/coder. So you, behind the scenes for over 90 days, have been working with a secret assistant. It's brand new. Nobody's heard of it. It's going to be a huge deal once people find out about this Co-Pilot thing. So why don't you tell us how it's gone?
I prefer to call it my Secret Squirrel.
Right? Oh, okay.
But
It is a
yes,
little squirrely.
I have been for 90 days, or actually more than 90 days. I just decided math is hard. Um, Working with Copilot, trying kind of messing with it in various forms, trying it on some internal stuff, and I have many thoughts. I am now a paying Copilot customer.
Okay.
So let's
All
just
right.
start right there. And I have been for a while.
Remind me what the cost of that is.
I don't think it's a lot. I think it's like maybe $30 a month or something.
I thought it was like 9 something. Okay. All right. Doesn't
Well,
matter.
we could just look that up. I mean, chat room, figure it out. It's not that much.
Yeah. Do us a favor, chat room.
It's based on Chat GPT, which I still can't say, version 3, which is the fancy smancy Chat GPT, except for the new fancy smancy one that just came out, GPT-4. So right off the bat, our jobs are safe. It is not going to replace anytime soon, full-time software developers. It just can't do it. But it's not just a toy. This isn't just like the dumb demo they do on their site where it's like, I generated I don't know, I think it's like a React widget or something, a React component. It really can be helpful. I have sort of found it helpful less as the write my code for me and more as the spot my stupid mistakes before I have to like recompile this and, do it by hand. IP concerns may or may not exist. I have heard the argument. I think that's a tough sell. Because then Stack Overflow should have the same IP concern. When people just copy pasta things out of there, I don't know. Not a lawyer. I find most, if not all, of those arguments to be pretty shallow, given that I have never met a developer who hasn't once, control C'd and control V'd off of Stack Overflow. Be that what it may, right? Is it the future of AI and automation? Copilot? I think it kind of is. And I've been going down this kind of broader path of, well, what is AI? What do I think it's going to be good for? And the idea of, and the name's perfect, Copilot, as AI as your, helper, right? Your Copilot, rather than the machines are going to replace us, seems to be, to me, a pretty logical way for this to go.
I'm really glad you said that because I think Microsoft deserves a lot of the credit for this Copilot naming scheme. And Satya Nadella, when they were presenting the Copilot integration for Office 365, I think brilliantly framed it. And I think this is how Microsoft is going to try to pitch this. And it seems so harmless. They'll say, this is what he says. This is what Satya said. He said, for years now, we have been using AI behind the scenes in an automated fashion, surfacing social media posts, figuring out which videos to watch, managing spam. He lists off, he kind of rattles off several automated use cases for AI behind the scenes. And he says that Microsoft sees this as a transition from using AI on autopilot to using AI as a co-pilot. And so they're using the terminology co-pilot to kind of imply that it's secondary to the main pilot, which is you, and it's there to help, but it shouldn't take the wheel. And it also phrases it in a way that sets expectations, I think, that it doesn't have to be 100% perfect. And it's kind of a brilliant framing. And I think it's really incredible that it was Microsoft that came up with such a smooth, slick naming convention for something like this, because they typically botch this kind of stuff.
Yeah, the marketing side of it is super interesting, right? It's, it really contrasts kind of with the way Google used to do at every I/O their AI demonstration. It's like, it's going to make your dinner reservation for you. You'll never, ever actually see this in the wild. Sorry, right? This is kind of the tack that Microsoft is taking, even with their Office assistive technology stuff, right? Their AI stuff, which is also based on OpenAI, right? And I think that's the more realistic take on this whole thing. Like, I know you and I both listen to all the other tech shows, or at least most of them. And there's a lot of like hand wringing about, they're going to take our jobs. The AI is going to consume everything. And it's just not going to, at least not in the near future. Is it going to change things slightly? Sure.
So I guess that's what I'm surprised by. I'm surprised that you find it valuable enough that you're willing to keep paying for it. And I'm wondering if I'm also getting to that threshold, but I'd like to dig into exactly what it is. Is it saving you time ultimately? Is it because it can sometimes catch something, or it can save you time having to do like a process of elimination?
Yeah, it's stuff like that. It's really one of the features I find most useful is like, here's a function, generate a test. That is super, especially in like your looser languages like a Ruby, that I found super useful because this is a little controversial, but a lot of the quote unit test coverage that you end up writing for things like Ruby are really just type checking, right? Like you're writing a test.
I've used it to generate some YAML examples for me, and I go and I change essentially the details, but it structures the YAML and the basic points that I need for anything from like a Docker Compose file to a Home Assistant automation. It knows the whole range and can produce example YAML files for me that just need slight modification. And I just thought that was a nice time saver. I have been pretty impressed by the Bing bot as well. I had to do Edge and all of that, like I griped about recently, but it seems even faster. It's up more of the time, and it seems a little briefer. It doesn't try to impress you as much with its verbosity, like the Chat GPT at OpenAI does. But I find the bots useful for getting to the root of an issue. And you still have to go check everything, but you can ask them for their references, and for the most part, and you get at least somewhere to start. You get a starting point instead of, a needle in a haystack situation. And I've shared this story before, but one time that was really useful was I was preparing an episode of Linux Action News, and I remembered that Manifest version 3 web extensions were controversial, and they were a Google idea that Mozilla resisted. But I didn't understand why Firefox was going to be the first to ship them when Mozilla was one of the largest proponents, and now Chrome isn't shipping them yet. And I couldn't understand how we got from A to B. And in a conversational style, I essentially interviewed ChatGPT about the question. And when it would say something that I thought was the most interesting, I'd ask for a link. And I got the complete background context between what it provided me and by the links that I went and read. That I was able to bring myself completely up to speed on a subject where I'm not even sure where I would have started. Maybe I would have started in some of the mailing lists, but it was able to link me to the specific discussion in a Google Chrome development mailing list, which is super deep and wide. And that was extremely useful. And I was like, wow, this thing just saved me like 2 hours of research. You got to check it.
You got to check it, but and obviously you don't necessarily trust it out of the box. But this is the thing, right? These are early days, and I kind of feel the extremist sort of, it's going to eat the world, and the counterpoint, it's just crap and a toy and blah blah blah, are both wrong, right?
Yeah.
It is probably going to be important. It's something I'm really focusing on, and less Co-Pilot specifically, but like the whole idea of OpenAI, ChatGPT, and things like it. It does remind me a little bit how just much data there is out there that's freely accessible. That if you have enough computational power, you can churn through and come up with some pretty interesting.
And isn't it interesting how it can surface stuff that Google search doesn't surface? Like
Yes,
it's looking at stuff and making connections that even Google search hasn't been able to make.
exactly. And if you're using Sydney, it can go crazy and
Yeah.
yeah.
Our buddy Brent is over in Berlin right now. He's just spent the last week in the Nextcloud office, well, during the day. And the reason is because they've just launched Nextcloud Hub 4. And one of the big innovations is the integration of OpenAI, Stable Diffusion, and Whisper. So you have different, like you get an API basically for the an OpenAI account, and then you can pull in ChatGPT. I don't know how it's doing Stable Diffusion. I don't know if it's running that locally or if it's doing it in the cloud. I haven't looked into that. And then Whisper, I believe, is running locally, and Whisper does the transcription. And they do this now through what they call a smart picker, which is like a launcher. And you can just, in the middle of a chat, you can invoke Stable Diffusion to generate like a Picard meme image for you.
Nice.
But where I actually found it, yeah, it's fun. But where I actually found it compelling and useful, and we have it turned on the Jupiter Broadcasting Nextcloud, is in the Notes app. I'm taking notes, and I was making a note about an oil change, and I just invoked ChatGPT, and I just ask it to give me the basic steps for a basic oil change. And then 2 seconds later, I had a note with a 9-step oil change process that I could review and tweak and customize to my specific car. And then boom, I was done. And it was just right there. I had that note completed. To have it and have it integrated in as a template. So another example I saw in a video was somebody opened up Nextcloud Docs and asked for the basic outline of a resignation letter or something like that. And then they just tweak the details and boom, they got a resignation letter. It's going to be a lot of that kind of stuff for a bit too, but it's actually a useful integration. It's not just hype. And then they're pairing that with their own ethical AI rating system. They're not really suggesting this as a standard for others, but it's one that they're going to follow. And they're going to just kind of label different quote unquote AI software packages based on how much data they might leak to the cloud provider, or if it's all local or whatever. So that way people will have an idea with a labeling system, what this backend software knows about you and who it shares it with, and if it quote unquote is ethical. It's an interesting idea, and I think we might see something like this take off more in the future.
Yeah, I think it is interesting. I mean, it's, I can think of all kinds of interesting use cases for this sort of thing too. Yeah, it's just have an open mind, folks. I know there's a lot of freedom hate on Co-Pilot, I'd say, but the wider ramifications are super interesting. And, I could even see like a spinoff of it used as a teaching tool for, let's say, bootcamp developers, right? Super junior people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So like where it knows what you're trying to, because you have a set curriculum and kind of walks you through it, analyzes your code as you make mistakes and, holds your hand.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of that.
Yep.
I saw a chat, I guess I listened to a ChatGPT powered radio station. Have you heard about this?
No, that sounds great.
It's crazy. So it's a tech demo mostly by a company that like sort of sells AI solutions, but they have a real radio stream. I think they're transmitting in some small town, and it plays the hits, and it does transitions because it knows what the playlist is. So it can go look up information about the track and the artist, and it does the DJ thing where it talks about the song and the track that's playing right now. And they're packaging this up as a product that will be sold to markets to just run radio stations. So, and it does voice, obviously, and the voice sounds legit. I think at first glance, you might not even realize that it's a generated voice. If you listen for a while, you can start to tell. But I found it good enough that I probably listened for a couple of hours.
Nice.
It's really, I don't know. It's a wild world we live into. I live in right now. I will put a link in the show notes because the URL is kind of weird, but I'll put it in the live chat too if people want to check it out and play a little music. But it's out there right now.
I'm actually writing myself a ChatGPT extension script, whatever, to go through. I use SavvyCal, which is one of these like book a time if you want to learn about Alice kind of things, right? And just the aggressive amounts of spam bookings you can get from people who are so not dedicated to being good spammers that they'll put like, my name is Rick. And I have like 3 fields there. Your name. First of all, you should give a full name. The company you are calling regarding, and how can Alice help you? What's your deal, right? It's like, my name is Rick. Company, I don't know. Literally, it just happened. Somebody put IDK, and then in the how can Alice help, chatting.
Nice.
And I'm like, okay, that's obvious spam, right? And honestly, this is terrible, and I know it's not always true. The most obvious sign of spam is if the email address is like at yahoo.com.
Yeah. Probably not a serious business.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you couldn't spring for the GoDaddy domain there. You couldn't get the email box from Hover.
Probably a bad sign. Tailscale.com/coder. Go there to get a free personal account for up to 20 devices. That's not a trial. It's not a limited time thing. You can use Tailscale for free for up to 20 devices. Now, what is Tailscale? It's a zero config VPN that you can get up and running on your devices in minutes. And unlike old school clunky VPNs that send all your traffic to the endpoint, Tailscale intelligently only sends the traffic meant for your Tailscale devices to your Tailnet, which means you can leave it running all the time, and that flat mesh VPN network is always available. That is a fundamental game changer. Tailscale also lets you easily manage access to private resources. You can even share with friends that also have Tailscale, and there's lots of nice services around Tailscale to make it simpler and quicker to get to your machines, like Tailscale SSH. I also think Tailscale is perfect for developers who want to set up an ad hoc network while they're working on a project. I am so grateful that I can put Tailscale on a VM running here at the studio, and I can put Tailscale on a cloud instance, and they just can talk to each other. No firewall ports had to open up. No crazy weird day spent configuring the VPN trying to get it working. It happens so smoothly and so quickly. And if you're a business, it'll tie into your existing OAuth infrastructure, including two-factor. So that's really nice. You can manage resources and share it there. Like, I can just share my resources with other members of my Jupiter Broadcasting organization. You quickly create a network between your servers, your computers, your mobile devices, all of it. And you'll be blown away by the range of Linux and architectures and operating systems in general that Tailscale supports. They really just blow it out of the park. And even when you're separated by really difficult carrier grade NAT or gnarly firewalls that really restrict what allows inbound and outbound, Tailscale can navigate that. They've spent time engineering that to make it work great. And then they have nice features like Tailscale Send. Tailscale Send is like AirDrop for all of your Tailscale devices. It doesn't matter the OS. You can move data between them quickly and securely. And Tailscale is also my go-to for family members' computers that need a little bit of SSH or RDP love from me remotely, if you get my drift. I have it run on everything, you guys, and I'm a big fan. It's changed the way I network. I no longer have inbound ports on any of my firewalls, and I'm doing more stuff remotely than ever. Tailscale truly flattened out my networks between all my different places, and it really has been a massive enabler for remote work and getting access to all of my resources and doing things better, right? Doing things secure instead of over the open public internet. Go try it out and get it for free for up to 20 devices at tailscale.com/coder. It's tailscale.com/coder. So you hinted at a little GPT-4 stuff, and I see a GPT-4 challenge in the doc here. I'm curious what's going on over there.
Yeah, so I have been fooling around with the GPT-4 API, or I should say GPT API. Obviously, GPT-4, there's a little bit of a wait list for that API, but I'm on it. I'm waiting. It's the same API, so yay. The model's just smarter. I've been using GPT-4 itself to kind of help with my favorite busy work, accounting. So I'm not filing any, required government paperwork via it, but it's pretty decent at stuff that's like, tell me, what the net loss in this document was, or the net, profit, whatever.
Wow.
Yep.
That's handy. Jeez.
Yes, it is.
And it's all available over an API. That's really something. They're going to make so much money.
It is. Yep. The API has a Python node.
Of course.
What's the third one? I don't remember the third one. It might. I don't think it's Rust. So sorry, crab people. You guys are in the cold yet again.
I was hoping.
Oh no, the third one is just you can just use the API in any language you want. But there's SDKs, like packaged up SDKs for Python and Node. Because if something exists, there's an npm package for it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think they're going to slowly turn the price up on this, or do you think that there's going to be so many AI as a service options out there that the market's going to keep the rates low?
I think both. I think the price is too low right now, but it's going to go up, but it's not going to be dramatic. But the amount of competition is going to force prices to stabilize.
It just triggers that whole, like, if you build something on this, then they can just rug pull you nerve in me. That's like, the only thing I don't like about this is that you can't run this on your own infrastructure. It's hard to start to build a whole business around it.
Yeah, that ship has sailed though, right?
I think so. Definitely with this.
Yeah.
This definitely seems like the line in the sand, because just the scale of these models, the resources required, And then the competitive nature of this means that they're going to be iterating. So I would imagine, resources required are just going to exponentially grow. You just, I mean, maybe you could get a small, purpose-built model and a system that's small enough that if you're just doing something kind of like very purpose-built, maybe it could run locally. But
Well, people are probably going to end up doing, and wink, wink, foreshadowing here, is building smaller scale custom applications using ChatGPT for specific use cases. So, because you can also train it to care about your specific, context, right? And
yeah,
at least as of now, the API pricing is pretty generous. So can't think of a case where building your own model would ever make sense, since all the natural. See, I've been doing this bot development stuff for a while, right? And I can tell you, just like API wise, ChatGPT, the language processing is so much better than what came before.
definitely is.
Yeah. So even like, ironically, they're a partner of Microsoft. The Microsoft Lewis engine, when it first came out, I thought was super impressive, but was such a pain in the butt. Like, you had to have so many special cases for everything. And every once in a while, it would be like, I know you were talking about a car, but have you considered a jet?
Yeah, that's also a form of transportation. Look at me go.
And it's like, no, crackhead. Let's just keep moving.
This has me thinking, though. I was wondering before we started the show, do you feel like a little validated? Like you were a little early to the game, but now it's clear that there is market interest in these bots? Because I think, there's been a larger than expected demand response. And at first I thought it was hype and I thought it would go away. But now sales numbers are starting to come out. People are actually interested in this stuff. And large tech titans are fighting like hell to be king. So there's something here.
I am putting the pedal down like I have Bill Clinton's blue dress of fame and 3 kilos of cocaine in my car. And there's 15 Republican cops behind me.
All right. So Bill Clinton's car.
Yeah, I'm in Bill Clinton's. It's just his car. Yeah. Honestly, I thought it was mine. It was a Tesla, and my app unlocked it by accident.
They all look alike too. Yeah, and your app unlocks it.
So yeah, no, I do feel validated. I also feel like I gotta go. I'm a little foreshadowing. Keep an eye on the TMB website over the next week or two. Things are gonna rapidly evolve.
Right. I mean, you've been out there selling purpose-built bots to companies, trying to explain why this is good, and now you have the big tech companies doing it for you.
Well, now I can just say the magic word ChatGPT, right?
Yeah, ChatGPT integration.
Right. So
yeah, they really got themselves a hot product that, you're right, it's the kind of thing that when you put that logo on the side of your proverbial box, it just brings a little brand cachet to the product.
Yep. I'm having flashbacks to 2008.
Yeah.
So privately, I showed you some of the stuff I was doing, and it'll all be out next week.
I'll tell you, again, I know I shouldn't, but I just come back to thinking, it's so funny how Google missed this.
It's weird that they screwed this up, right? Like,
yeah.
And good old Microsoft missed mobile completely. They're like, nah, we're in this time. Yeah.
And I think the reason why I'm kind of enthusiastic about specifically the ChatGPT stuff isn't because I think it's so incredible or we're going to change everything. It's because it isn't going to take our gerbs, but it is handy. And so it sits in that nice little spot where I'm like, oh, I'm actually going to use this a few times a week at least. And, it's not going to replace a podcaster anytime soon. So I actually think it's really in that sort of sweet spot. And CB was talking in our Matrix chat room this morning about how he uses ChatGPT to create a kid's book. And I've done something similar. So this is a pro tip for the dads and moms out there. CB writes, I've been generating kid stories and telling ChatGPT to write a children's book with a short paragraph per page. Then I generate a stable diffusion prompt with that to go with each page. Then I use a classic animation checkpoint to generate the image. My next step is to order a photo book as a board book for my boy using the generated images and story.
Your next step is to write the Python script that this needs to be to automate this entire process. And every month you get him
I know.
It's right there, right? It's right there.
That's a product.
It's a product.
Yep. You could make a little web page. Well, not little, but you could make a web page that dads like us go to and upload, a short story. Or what I did this weekend even is I went to ChatGPT and the kids wanted a bedtime story. And over the years, I've kind of worked in their dog Levi and a red squirrel and just a couple of like characters. So I just went to ChatGPT while they're asking for the dad, and I pull out my phone, Firefox, ChatGPT, give me a kid's bedtime story that works in a red squirrel and a dog named Levi. Enter, and spits out a great little short, 3 or 4 or 5 paragraph kid bedtime story that ends on a nice note, and they loved it.
And what's not to love? I mean,
Right.
There's a South Park episode I strongly recommend everybody see. I can't say that after watching it, I had ChatGPT respond to my wife's text messages. I definitely will not admit to that directly.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
That is so brilliant. I have behind the scenes been complaining verbosely about just being completely overwhelmed by community DMs and messages because we just, shows are doing great. Matrix is doing great. Just Twitter, Telegram. It's right. It's blowing up all the time. If I could auto respond.
And now we've all added Mastodon. Yeah. Oof.
Yeah. Twitter, Mastodon. Yeah. If I could auto respond, that'd be some serious, powerful stuff. Even if it wasn't 100% accurate, if it like auto responded and then sent me like into like one central chat thread, like, hey, just you need to check this when you get to the point. I responded with this, but you probably should follow up and make sure that's accurate or something. Anything like that would be awesome.
Well, also, I just want to say, ChatGPT, it does know its way to a lady's heart.
It did the job, huh?
If they're not going to take our jobs, I'm worried about some other things, though. Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be a movie. You watch. That's going to be the plot for a movie soon.
You know, it already was a movie, right? The old movie. There's an old movie from 2000 or 1999.
Oh,
AI. It's you might remember this. It's the one where the couple's kid dies, and they adopt. There's this company that sells AI little kid bots.
Yeah, a robot.
And there is a AI. He gets thrown out because I think he accidentally hurt somebody or something. And there is an AI gigolo, like a robot gigolo that he meets in like weird robot circus hell. Now, the AI cannot stop gin from spilling on my laptop. There's no intelligence or force.
Circus freak. Hey, Monday mornings or afternoons, depending where you're at, Jupiter.tube. And of course, our Matrix room's going all the time, but it's definitely popping during the live stream at coder.show/Matrix. It's I try not to sound like I'm hyping it up, but I am trying to say that I think these are actually going to be useful tooling. Now, the ironic thing is that now that the tech industry has found something semi-useful, they are going to go into hyperbolic hype mode. It's ridiculous. They need a win so bad right now. The tech industry.
You mean like Web3?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was, that's what some of the investors are saying as well. The Web3 thing didn't work out, but this AI stuff, this is where it's at. I mean, I've literally seen that. Not even a fake literally, a real literally.
You see, you know what the difference between this and Web3? And I will even give the Web3 guys a few things. There are limited use cases where that makes sense. They're just tend to mostly be banks. Or, the NSA, I guess, because they love everything. Hi, guys. You enjoying the show today?
Hi.
I'm filing my income taxes. Please leave me alone. Most businesses, let's forget about the consumer side because that's not my strong suit. But most customers I like to serve, right? Medium businesses, barring the military crap, medium businesses to becoming large businesses. This is why Alice sold, right? This is why Alice still sells. They have crap that's been laying around data-wise that needs to be automated. And integrating ChatGPT or something like it is just going to make that kind of stuff easier. It's also going to make maybe Chris probably can relate to this, and maybe some of you in the audience can. It is so easy just to mess up mundane business reporting and compliance tasks.
Oh, yes.
But the fines are substantial, to say the least. And I personally would love to have an AI just like behind me being like, hey, dumbass, if you don't file that form today, New Jersey is going to charge you $500, even though you had it done. You just forgot to hit the button. Right. Or, hey, dumbass, you've put the wrong number of employees in the wrong states because, workman's comp is a thing. Right.
It makes the Home Assistant, like smart tubes that we have now, like Alexa and Cancel. And Google Home and Siri seems so basic now.
Yeah. I mean, how come Siri has never fallen in love with me and become a creepy stalker?
I can't even explain it. We all do it, so I can't explain that. But you could, if they could integrate more like I've always wanted something that could be a little more proactive.
Yep.
Like, hey, I've noticed a couple of conflicts coming up on your calendar, or hey, there's an email in your inbox that's got a question that's relevant to this other, references something else you're working on. I don't know. I don't want it to get too creepy, but it's the potential is pretty high if they can actually execute. That's where I remain a little skeptical. I think when you start talking about what's possible versus what's actually going to happen, we'll see. We'll see how far they take it.
Right. This I'm talking my own book a little bit, but initially, what's going to make the most sense is they're implementing this to augment business automation.
Yeah.
Right. Very boring stuff that is really just data management. I see the consumer side gets super messy, right? Because it's just weird. Consumer stuff is weird. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's going to be it's helping businesses manage the debt they've built up over the years of documentation and just policies and procedures and all this crap. Going through that, sorting through that, and giving people a simple human interface that everybody from a brand new hire to somebody who's been working there for like as long as the company can just talk to this thing and it'll give them the answers they need is going to be a massive productivity boost because it doesn't require training them to use a special interface with SQL search syntax and, all that kind of stuff like it was back in my day. You just go to the bot now in your whatever chat app that you use and just ask it a question and it's going to be able to retrieve it for you. And businesses will pay for that because it's going to make all of their employees more efficient. And if you get something wrong, you'll be able to just blame the bot.
Ask not what your podcast can boost for you, but what you can boost for your podcast.
Well, Sir Sean of the Hogany Valley boosted in with 150,650 sats and says, please keep up the Linux nerdiness. He says you can drop the last significant digit for my zip code.
Hey, Rich Lobster!
Sir Sean also boosted Linux Unplugged, and so I think we looked him up on Linux Unplugged. So thank you for boosting both shows, Sir Sean. And I love the zip code boost, too. So if you're a Coda Radio listener and you want to boost in with your zip code as the SAT amount, we'll look you up and see where you're at. And we're spying on you right now. Looking at you right now. I'm looking to see what I like to see. We'll see for Sean. Does Sean have a fitness gym? Planet Fitness. Do they have a Yep, he's got a Planet Fitness. There you go. Nartona Heights? I'm not even sure how you say that, but he's in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So thank you, Sean. Thank you for the large boost, too. Dave Jones, the pod sage, comes in with 12,345 sats. I'd like to lodge a protest. You'd never get that beautiful sizzle that you played from turkey bacon. You have forced my hand. I have to classify that bacon fry as fake news. He's right. You got me, Dave. That was indeed a proper bacon sample.
That was a truth bomb right on us.
Yeah, he got us. He called us out. He got us. It's cool. It's cool. I'll try to do better, Dave. Dave comes in with another boost with 100,000 sats. Heard on 510 that you had some bad news. Indeed. Here's a baller boost. Hope it helps. It does. It does. I am very concerned about the rest of this year. And the baller boosts are a nice little ray of sunshine. I don't know. I have heard from so many podcasters who say they cannot sell ads anymore that they have. And then the ones that do sell, they're coming in at just bottom rate, just rock bottom prices. And they're for like things that you probably don't want to hear us advertise too. So
even those mattress people stop buying ads. I mean, once you can't sell a mattress ad in a box, it's sad.
Did you hear that like NPR just laid off 10% of their staff, which was all in the podcasting division because they can't make any money now? It's crazy.
You know what? We talk about show stuff online. I think the way to go, you know better than me, of course, is not ads like we traditionally do, but more kind of like, let's not name Imus, but basically Imus in the Morning or Howard Stern stuff where you do like a segment on the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you know who I'm stealing this from, right?
Who?
You notice there's a lot of sponsored content on The Verge these days?
No, I don't. I haven't, but that's interesting.
Yeah, it's like how to use the CLR camera or whatever, right? SLR rather, camera. It's brought to you by Canon, and it just so happens to be that camera.
Yeah, Linus Tech Tips does that quite a bit too.
No, they get hacked all the time too, though. So,
nice one.
and they like to delete their GNOME desktop. So
Yeah. They are. I will give Linus Tech Tips credit for being very upfront when it's a sponsored episode, but.
Yeah, I actually like Linus Tech Tips. I think their Mac reviews are pretty funny because they always end with, and it costs way too much.
Yeah.
We're building our own Windows machine.
I can sometimes see a little bit of the lifestyle that Linus has to lead to run that company, and I can see it's hollowing him out. So I do worry about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's tough.
I may be projecting, but Space Ninja comes in with 45,604 beautiful sats.
I hoard that which your kind covets.
He says, I had some trouble figuring out Fountain, so I think this might have been a double boost. He says, go ahead and enjoy it. Hey guys, I'm boosting my boring zip code. It's a tech desert and a shrinking home of the falling Rosetta Stone. I just want to say I've been loving you guys' takes on SVB and the TikTok mess. Hope you guys are well. Well, Space Ninja, I messed it up because I counted for both your boosts. But thank you very much. And you know what? A tech desert, at least it gets great solar.
Weird, but true.
Only, I guess, real solars do. No, only real deserts do, not actual metaphorical deserts, I suppose. So
True. He could be in the north with you in the ice caves. Yeah.
Scott comes in with 1,000 sats. Young Buck here. I just wish I didn't start the TikTok shorts thing and instead hunkered down with Star Trek like you guys. I don't have TikTok, but I have to uninstall Instagram and YouTube apps because they're just TikTok clones now and they're so addictive. Hopefully the fad burns out. Cheers. Isn't that funny how they just jump around like that?
Yeah.
The YouTube shorts have sucked my kids in and I'm trying to get them to stop.
Yeah, it's bad.
It is. It's
Scott, you need to just right away, you got to dive into some next generation Star Trek.
Yeah.
You're going to get through the first season. You're just going to get through it. It's not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that good.
Yep. Maybe drink through the first season, while you're watching.
Well, he said he's a young buck. He could be underage.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. So get really stoned. No.
You might be in Denver. I mean, that might be okay. I don't know,
Yeah.
but
yeah, but that's not a tech desert. Though.
yeah, it's
usually where there's a tech desert, they usually have aggressive cannabis laws too. So
like, what do they call those? The blue laws, like the no drinking on certain days.
The dry laws or whatever.
Right,
yeah.
And just the key is you got to turn your phone on to do not disturb though. Because there will be times when Picard is having a heart-to-heart with the Klingon. And the Klingon is pretending not to care. But he cares. And then they become besties. This happens.
But you'd miss that if your phone interrupted you.
Well, no, you'll just be like, this is boring. Let me go be on my phone.
Oh, I see.
You need to build up your Star Trek addiction.
Yeah. I think Next Gen is a good on-ramp. I agree. Unless, like you said, he is a young buck. So I also put the caveat that Strange New Worlds might be a decent place. But I think Strange New Worlds is great when you love Star Trek.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's great if you're coming in cold.
Well, if you're coming in cold, because there's a lot of fan service. Like, remember this?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Next Gen really wanted to be its own thing for a while. And so, I can't disagree.
If you miss the 60s, though, you can't go wrong with the original series.
No, you cannot. The Golden Dragon comes in with 2048 sats. Just a live boost to remind folks that jblive.fm, the audio stream, is great for those who can't use the video stream.
Epic.
Yeah, we do jblive.fm. We do an audio stream, which is great for the on-the-go folks, or if you just don't care about the vidya. And then our last boost, just a nice simple one from Hal Was Right, comes in with 2100 sats.
Coming in hot with the boost.
Says, thanks, guys. Well, thanks you, Hal. Thanks you. Thanks you much. Thank you, everybody who boosted in. If you would like to boost, there's 2 paths before you. You can join the Podcasting 2 revolution with new features and standards and new ways to discover podcasts at newpodcastapps.com. Or you can keep your damn app and just go get Alby. GetAlby.com. You top it off either in the app or through something like the Cash or Strike app. Then you head over to the podcast index, find the Coda Radio program, which we have linked in the show notes, and you can boost right there from their webpage. And you don't even have to switch apps. And then when your favorite app does come around, like your maybe one day your Pocket Cast, maybe, they're most likely just going to integrate Alby and you'll be good to go already. And then I also want to say a big thank you to our members. This is something that I think is going to determine the make or break it. Like if the market does really take a downturn, it's the shows with strong membership support that will survive, and the shows that don't won't. And I am so grateful that we have the members there to invest in the ongoing production, so that way we can make sure the Coder program keeps on going. You can become a member and get an ad-free version of the show as a thank you at coderqa.co. We do owe you a Coderly. We just, between schedules, kids, and health, it has been crazy. This is always a tricky thing, but maybe we'll do like a makeup one or something, or a special one at some point. We should do like a holiday Coder.
Should do like a holiday one, yeah. Like an Easter one where we dress up as creepy bunnies.
For an audio show.
show.
Yeah. Mr. Dominic, is there anywhere you want to send the good people this week before we get out of here?
Hell yeah. How about alice.dev? And wink, wink, if you're interested in some automation goodness, I'd get on that now because prices are going up soon.
Yeah, now is the time, right? Now is the time.
It sure is.
And here's a little bacon to go out with. This is genuine, locally sourced bacon. And like an animal, I'm going to dip it in some maple.
Goddamn Canadians.
But you can find links to what we talked about today at coder.show/511. That's right. It's the tactical version of Coder Radio, coder.show/511. The pod is on the tweets at Coder Radio Show. The Matrix is always rolling at coder.show/matrix. That is the modern chat room of the future. And of course, the live stream, jupiter.tube, Mondays at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. You can also hit us up at jvlive.tv. We like it either way. Thanks so much for listening to this episode, and we'll see you right back here next week on Coder Radio.